There was a time when rock and roll meant everything. When you saved up for weeks just to buy an album. When you wore out the grooves and memorized every liner note. These photos come from that world. A world before cell phones, before the internet, when all we had was the music and each other. Let's go back there together. The greatest rock and roll band in the world, joined by American royalty. Stephen Stills sits in with the Rolling Stones in 1970. A legendary spontaneous jam session between two bands at the absolute peak of their powers. Led Zeppelin's acoustic side, 1971. After being dismissed as just a loud blues band, they added a stripped-down set to their show. It was a powerful display of their incredible musicianship, proving they could whisper as well as roar. The Eagles, 1972. They'd been backing Linda Ronstadt. Now they had their own deal. 4 guys, 4 voices, California harmonies stacked tight. First album's about to drop. Nobody knew yet, but this band would own the decade. Mick and Billy Preston, 1973. Billy was the Stones' secret weapon. Keys, organ, that funky gospel touch. He'd played with the Beatles, too. The guy could fit anywhere and make it better. This was family, not just a hired hand. Two of the 70s biggest superstars, Elton John and Rod Stewart, on the soccer pitch in 1974. The two friends and fierce rivals took their competition from the charts to the field for charity, proving that even rock gods need a hobby. Page and Plant, mid-70s. The two of them were the engine, Robert's voice, Jimmy's guitar, that unspoken connection. They didn't need to talk on stage, just a look and the song would turn. This partnership ran the whole thing. CBGB, 1977. Everyone around them was playing fast and loud and angry. Talking heads showed up looking like grad students, playing art funk that made you think. Total outliers. Didn't fit in anywhere, and that's exactly why they mattered. A lean, hungry Police in 1978, the year of their debut. They famously dyed their hair blonde for a gum commercial just to pay the rent. That happy accident gave them their iconic look, and their brilliant music did the rest. Van Halen, 1979. 4 guys from Pasadena who played like they had nothing to lose. Eddie rewriting guitar, Dave kicking everything else into chaos. This photo catches that energy, young, loud, and completely unstoppable. AC/DC in Miami, 1980. 5 guys on a bulldozer, palm trees in the back. Doesn't look like the biggest rock band in the world, but they were about to be. Brian's first tour, Back in Black about to explode. Right before everything changed again. The Stones at the Garden, 1981. Tattoo You Tour, biggest in the world. This wasn't the 70s anymore. No more wildness, no more winging it. This was rock and roll as a machine, professional, massive, and still the best show in town. The Clash in 1982, the year of combat rock. They were at the absolute peak of their fame, with massive hits all over the radio. But behind the scenes, the band was completely falling apart. The last picture of a revolution. Bob Dylan and Tom Petty at the first Farm Aid in 1985. This collaboration worked so well that the Heartbreakers became Dylan's touring band for 2 years, completely re-energizing his live show and creating a legendary partnership. Red Hot Chili Peppers, 1987. Original lineup: Flea, Anthony, Hillel, Jack. Raw, funky, completely unhinged. A year from now, Hillel's gone. The band almost dies with him. But this photo? This is them before the storm. A young Johnny Cash in the late 50s. The ornate, custom-inlaid Gibson was a symbol of his rising stardom. But the true Man in Black always preferred his tough, plain Martin guitars, a working man's tool for a working man's music. Newport, 1964. Cash at the folk festival, rubbing shoulders with Dylan and Baez. But look closer. That intensity in his eyes wasn't just stage presence. He was fighting demons nobody could see. The music was never better. The man was barely holding on. George and Ringo, Bahamas, 1965. Filming Help, goofing around between takes. But something happened here. George heard Indian music for the first time. A chance encounter that sent him down a road he'd walk for the rest of his life. One trip changed everything. Neil, 1967. That half smile, arms crossed, like he knows something you don't. Buffalo Springfield had maybe a year left, but he wasn't worried. He had songs, he had plans. The solo career was already taking shape in his head. Frank Zappa and the Original Mothers of Invention, 1968. They were in the middle of a European tour, bringing their brilliant, bizarre satire to the world. A band of virtuosos who could play anything and were afraid of nothing. Hyde Park, 1969. Brian Jones had just passed, 2 days before. Mick in white, reading poetry to 250,000 people. Butterflies in the air. It was a funeral and a rebirth all at once. The old Stones were gone. The new ones started here. $1 Billion Babies Tour, 1973. Alice Cooper wasn't just playing shows. He was staging horror movies every night. Guillotines, snakes, fake blood. Broke every box office record the Stones had set. This was rock as theater, and Alice was the ringmaster. Roger and Keith, 1974. They drove each other crazy. Fists flew more than once over the years. But look at this. Underneath all the madness, there was love. Brothers. That bond is what made The Who work. The Bay City Rollers in 1975, at the absolute peak of roller mania. While they were teen idols, their catchy, guitar-driven pop was a major influence on the first wave of punk bands who were just around the corner. "17 Years Old, 1976. The Runaways' first album just dropped. Joan was the real thing. Not playing a role, not following trends. Just a kid who wanted to rock as hard as the boys. And did. one of the first photos ever taken of Led Zeppelin. The band's maybe a few weeks old. Look at them. They already know. That chemistry, that confidence. They hadn't conquered anything yet, but it was coming. Fast. The Ramones in the UK, 1978. The Gabba Gabba Hey sign was their rallying cry, a nod to the cult horror film Freaks. It was a message to all the outsiders that they were part of the Ramones' misfit family. Mick Jagger and Jerry Hall at Studio 54, 1978. The king of rock and the world's top model at the center of the disco universe. The Rolling Stones album Some Girls, released this same year, was directly inspired by these nights. Ian Curtis and Bernard Sumner, 1979. Joy Division in a bare rehearsal room, building that sound. Cold, intense, like nothing else. A year from now, Ian's gone. But right here, in this moment, they're still creating something new. "17 Seconds" lineup, right here. They'd started as post-punk, sharp and angular, but something was shifting. Darker, moodier, more atmosphere than edge. This is where The Cure became The Cure. The fog was rolling in. The queen of 80s rock, Pat Benatar, in 1982. She was a classically trained powerhouse and an MTV icon. Her partnership with guitarist Neil Giraldo created a sound that was tough, smart, and absolutely dominated the airwaves. The Student and the Master. Stevie Ray Vaughan with his hero Buddy Guy in 1983. This was the year SRV's debut album revitalized the blues. A perfect passing of the torch from the Chicago legend to the new Texas king. Best wedding band ever assembled. Robert Plant, Eric Clapton, and the groom himself, Phil Collins, 1984. Just three guys jamming at a party, playing oldies like it's a pub gig. Except the pub is full of rock royalty. Backstage at Live Aid, 1985. Bowie and McCartney, two guys who'd spent 20 years changing what pop music could be. Different paths, same destination. One of those photos that reminds you everyone was there that day. Everyone. Robert Smith. That hair, that lipstick, that look. It became a uniform for a whole generation of outsiders. But underneath the gloom was a pop genius. Songs that made you sad and made you dance. Sometimes at the same time. John and George in 1966, during the revolutionary paperback writer sessions. This was the bridge to Revolver, the moment they started using the studio as an instrument, leaving the world of pop music far, far behind them. The leaders of the British invasion, Paul McCartney and Mick Jagger, on a train to see the Maharishi in 1967. This spiritual journey would end in tragedy, as it was here the Beatles learned of their manager Brian Epstein's sudden death. Joni Mitchell, 1968. First album just out, Laurel Canyon scene buzzing around her. She wrote songs that made other songwriters quit or try harder. This is her right at the start, before everyone realized what she was. Jimmy Page, 1969. 2 Zeppelin albums in 1 year. American tours selling out. And this guy running the whole thing. Producer, guitarist, visionary. Look at that focus. He knew exactly what he was building. And he wasn't done yet. Peter Frampton, 1970. Teenage guitar hero in humble pie. Hard rock, sweaty clubs, Steve Marriott's band. But he wanted something else. Left a year later, went solo. Took a while. Then Frampton Comes Alive happened, and nothing was the same. Keith on the Exile Tour, 1972. That look. Cigarette, guitar, zero apologies. This is what rock and roll attitude looks like when it's not a pose. He wasn't trying to be cool, he just was. And nobody's topped it since. The Rolling Stones, reborn in 1969. With the addition of brilliant new guitarist Mick Taylor, the band was about to enter its golden age. His virtuosic playing would help define the sound of their greatest albums, from Sticky Fingers to Exile. Moon the Loon in 1970, the era of Live at Leeds. He didn't just keep time, he attacked the drums like a lead instrument. A true one-of-a-kind genius, the chaotic, explosive engine of the world's greatest live band. Neil Young, 1972. Harvest just made him huge. Heart of gold everywhere. Radio couldn't stop playing it. He hated it. Too smooth, too easy. So he turned around and drove straight into the ditch. On purpose. That was always Neil. That grin. My Ding-a-ling just hit #1. A novelty song, sure, but it put the guy who invented rock guitar back on top of the charts. After everything, the jail time, the tax problems, the years of being ripped off, he's still here, still getting paid. Chuck always knew what he was worth. The world just took a while to catch up. Richie Blackmore at California Jam, 1974. This show was insane. He attacked a TV camera with his guitar, had his amps rigged to explode. Pure destruction, live on broadcast. That was Richie. If he couldn't control something, he'd blow it up. Pink Floyd in 1974, In the Giant Shadow of the Dark Side of the Moon. The album's massive success had made them superstars, but it also created immense pressure that was beginning to tear the band apart from within. Earl's Court, 1975. 3.5 hours a night. Lasers, film, the works. Zeppelin at full scale, not just loud, but massive. 5 nights in London, and every one of them felt like a statement. This is what the top looked like. Sunset Strip, 1975. Born to Run was about to drop. Make or break time. If this album flopped, Bruce was done. You can see the hunger in this photo. He wasn't a star yet, just a guy with everything riding on the next record. Two kings of Detroit rock, Bob Seger and Ted Nugent, in 1976. Both were at the absolute peak of their powers, a meeting of two very different sides of the Michigan rock and roll coin, both undisputed champions of the arena. Philadelphia, summer of '77. Skinnered at full power, 3 guitars roaring, crowd on their feet. A few months from now, the plane goes down and it's all over. But they didn't know that. Nobody did. This is them at the peak, still flying. The legendary Cherry Vanilla. Before she was a punk rock pioneer in London, she was David Bowie's publicist during the Ziggy Stardust era in New York. A true trailblazer, her outrageous stage act kicked down doors for generations of female performers. CBGB, 1978. Home turf. The Ramones didn't do long shows. They hit fast, loud, and got out. 20 songs in 40 minutes, no breaks, no tuning. This photo is what punk rock felt like before anyone cleaned it up. The Clash, live in Boston, 1979. This was their first American conquest, a tour that became legendary for its raw power. They were soaking up American music on the road, an education that would directly inspire their masterpiece, London Calling. Journey in 1983, at the peak of their arena rock reign. The Frontiers Tour was a massive success, but it was also the beginning of the end. The pressures of superstardom were about to fracture one of America's biggest bands. A young Jimmy Page with the Yardbirds in 1966. With Clapton and Beck gone, he was in full control. It was here he experimented with the bow and the heavy psychedelic sounds that would become the very blueprint for Led Zeppelin. The Mamas and the Papas, 1966. Those harmonies, pure California sunshine in 4 voices. But behind the photo, a mess. Love triangles, jealousy, heartbreak. The music stayed beautiful anyway. Maybe that's how it worked. A meeting of royalty at Abbey Road, 1967. Mick Jagger watches as Lennon and McCartney conduct the orchestra for A Day in the Life. A rare glimpse of the friendly rivalry between the 2 biggest bands in the world at their creative peak. The Jimi Hendrix Experience in 1967, during their disastrous tour opening for the Monkees. The teeny bopper crowds didn't get it, and the band quit after just a few shows. The short, strange journey of a revolutionary band in a pop world. Jimmy for Rolling Stone, 1968. No guitar, no flames, no stage, just him. People forget how quiet he was off stage, shy, thoughtful, almost gentle. This photo caught something the concerts never showed, the man behind the noise. One of the first photos ever taken of Led Zeppelin. The band's maybe a few weeks old. Look at them. They already know. That chemistry, that confidence. They hadn't conquered anything yet, but it was coming. Fast.